December 7th, 1941, 8:06 a.m. In Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, the single most violent explosion in naval history tore through the morning sky. It wasn't caused by a torpedo. It wasn't the result of a carpet bombing run. It was a singular, catastrophic, physical event. In less than 7 seconds, the pride of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, the 31,000-ton super dreadnought USS Arizona, was literally snapped in half. The shockwave extinguished truck engines hundreds of yards away. Burning oil and debris were thrown 600 feet into the air. Of the 1,512 men on board, 1,177 were killed instantly. For decades, history books have told us the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and bombed the Arizona. But to military engineers and ballistics experts, that sentence is an insult to physics. Because in 1941, sinking a battleship was incredibly difficult. Battleships were built to take punishment. They had 13-inch vertical armor belts and multiple layers of steel decks. An ordinary aerial bomb hitting a battleship usually shatters like an egg on a rock, or explodes above the deck, scratching the superstructure but never touching the heart of the ship. To achieve the total annihilation of the Arizona, a special kind of weapon was needed, a weapon capable of falling from 3,000 meters, striking at near-sonic speeds, piercing through 5 inches of steel like a needle through fabric, and then the most critical step, detonating 0.2 seconds after burying itself deep inside the hull. This was no ordinary bomb. It was a radically modified 410mm naval artillery shell. It was an engineering freak of nature designed specifically to solve the horizontal bombing problem, the Type 99 number 80 Mark V armor-piercing bomb. Today we are leaving politics and strategy at the door. We are using fluid dynamics, materials, science, and ballistics data to dissect how this 800-kilogram steel assassin killed a battleship. To understand why the Arizona died, we must first go back to the Yokozuka Naval Arsenal, 1 year before the attack. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, planning the raid, faced 2 massive technical hurdles. Everyone knows the first hurdle. Pearl Harbor was too shallow, 12 meters average depth for torpedoes, leading to the famous wooden fin modification for the Type 91 torpedo. But the second hurdle was just as deadly, and far harder to solve: the horizontal bombing problem. The primary bomber of the Imperial Japanese Navy was the Nakajima B-5N2 Kate. It could carry an 800 kilograms payload, but the 800 kilograms land bombs in the Japanese inventory had thin casings. They were designed for soft targets like infantry and runways. Tests showed that when these high-explosive he-bombs hit a battleship's armored deck, they detonated immediately on impact. The result was a crater on the deck, but the victuals, the magazines, and engine rooms remained untouched. Without a solution, the inner ships on Battleship Row, like the Arizona, which was protected by the Vestal, would survive the torpedo attack. Japanese engineers needed an armor-piercing AP bomb. But in 1941, designing and casting a new heavy AP casing would take years and cost a fortune. They didn't have time, so they looked into their warehouses at Cold War relics. They found a stockpile of 410mm 16.1-inch Type 91 AP shells, originally built for the Nagato and Kaga-class battleships. These were monsters designed for ship-to-ship combat. Forged from high-carbon steel, they were built to punch through enemy armor from 20 kilometers away. The engineers proposed a crazy idea. What if we take these artillery shells, put fins on them, and drop them from a plane? It sounded simple, but it was a nightmare of machining physics. Because an artillery shell and an aerial bomb have completely different aerodynamic profiles. Without modification, the shell would tumble in the air, missing the target or hitting sideways. Thus, the Type 99, no, 80 Mark V was born. They chose the older Type 90 battleship shells as the base. First, weight reduction. The original 410mm shell weighed over 1,000 kilograms, too heavy for a Kate bomber. Workers mounted the shells on massive industrial lathes and shaved down the casing walls, reducing the diameter from 410mm to a more streamlined profile. This brought the weight down to 796.8 kilograms approx, 1,760 pounds, and improved aerodynamics. Next, the explosive filler. To ensure penetration, this bomb was not packed with explosives. While a US 2,000 pounds general-purpose bomb might be 50% explosive by weight, this Japanese AP bomb contained only 22.8 kg50 lbs of Type 91 explosive, trinitroanisome. You heard that right. Inside this 800 kilograms hunk of metal, less than 3% was explosive. The other 97% was solid, hardened steel. Its only job was to use kinetic energy to smash through obstacles. To ensure it fell vertically like a javelin, engineers installed 2 stability devices on the tail, a tail cone, and 4 fins. This was the ultimate weapon that would hang beneath the plane of Commander Mitsuo Fukida on the morning of December 7th. A battleship shell disguised as a bomb. We have the spear. Now let's look at the shield. The USS Arizona BB-39 was a Pennsylvania-class battleship. When she was designed in the 1910s, naval engineers were thinking about the Battle of Java. The philosophy was to survive a gunnery duel at 15,000 yards. Therefore, the Arizona had formidable vertical defense. Her waterline belt was 13.5 inches, 343 millimeters of Krupp-cemented armor, enough to stop almost any shell fired from the horizon. But when you looked up at the sky, this steel titan exposed a fatal weakness: a glass jaw. In 1941, the Arizona's horizontal protection deck armor was not a single thick plate. It was a distributed, layered system. Let's peel it back, layer by layer. Upper deck. The top layer was 3 inches, 76 millimeters, of teakwood laid over 0.375 inches, 9.5 millimeters of mild steel. This wasn't armor. It was a floor. Main deck. 1 level down, we hit the first resistance. 1.25 inches, 32 millimeters of special treatment steel. Its job was to trigger the enemy fuse. Splinter deck armor deck, K protecting the vitals, magazines, and engines, was the final line. Only 2 inches, 51 millimeters of armor steel. Aditolap, and the Arizona had only about 5 inches, 127 millimeters, of horizontal steel, separated by air gaps. For most 500 pounds or 800 pounds bombs of World War II, this 5 inches was enough. They would detonate on the main deck, shredding the superstructure but failing to penetrate the core. But remember the Type 99 80 Mark V. It was a 796 kilograms solid steel spike. When striking at near-sonic speeds, the physics changed. Distributed thin plates cannot absorb kinetic energy like a single thick block. This AP bomb would tear through the thick upper deck, punch through the main deck, and shatter the thin 2-inch armored deck like a bullet going through cardboard. The designers expected death to come from the horizon. They never expected it to fall vertically from the clouds. 8:06 a.m. Japanese bombardier Noboru Kanai, considered the most accurate in the entire Imperial Navy, releases the toggle. The Type 99 bomb drops. Now, we entered the realm of pure physics. The drop altitude was 3,000 to 3,200 meters, 10,000 feet. Why so high? Not to avoid flak, which hadn't started yet, but to accumulate kinetic energy. An AP bomb has no rocket motor. Its penetration power comes entirely from gravity. Using the freefall formula V equals la raíz cuadrada de 2h, and accounting for drag, the bomb achieved a terminal velocity of 260 meters per second, 580 miles per hour upon impact. That is nearly Mach 0.8. This means when that 800 kilograms mass touched the Arizona's deck, it carried 27 million joules of kinetic energy. Imagine a freight train locomotive hitting a wall at high speed. With all that energy focused into a 40 centimeters point, the bomb struck near frame 76. On the starboard side of turret, I doubt it smashed through the tick deck without slowing down. Then, it hit the main deck. Here, a critical event occurred. Fuse initiation. The bomb was equipped with 2 Type 91 delay fuses. Standard bombs use instant fuses, but the Type 91 had a 0.2-second delay. 0.2 seconds sounds like nothing, but at 260 meters per second, that bomb travels another 50 meters before exploding. That 0.2 seconds was the difference between life and death. If the fuse failed, the Arizona survives. If the delay was too long, the bomb exits the bottom of the ship and explodes in the mud. But the performance was perfect. During that 0.2-second delay, the bomb punched through the main deck, through the splinter deck, smashed through 3 platform levels, and buried itself deep into the ship's most vulnerable room, the forward black powder magazine. And then, time run out. 08 a las 6:05. The bomb detonates. Technically, it exploded in a storage area for black powder. This is a controversial detail, but it is likely the reason the destruction was so total. Naval main guns typically use smokeless powder, nitrocellular. It is relatively stable. If you set it on fire, it burns rapidly to flagration rather than exploding detonation. But the Arizona's forward magazine also stored about 1,000 pounds of black powder for the aircraft catapults and saluting guns. Black powder is unstable and highly explosive. Engineering analysis suggests the bomb's 50 pounds charge detonated this black powder first. This initial blast acted like a massive blasting cap, creating a shock wave that destabilized hundreds of surrounding smokeless powder bags. The chain reaction began. In milliseconds, approximately 1 million pounds, 450 tons of propellant ignited simultaneously. This wasn't a fire. This was a detonation. The gas expansion velocity exceeded the speed of sound. The internal pressure inside the Arizona spiked from 1 atmosphere to thousands of atmospheres. The pressure had nowhere to go. It couldn't vent through the funnel fast enough. So, it chose the only path. It tore the ship apart. The hull structure turned into wet tissue paper. The entire bow of the ship was blown open from the inside out. The massive turret I and turret II steel structures weighing over 2,000 tons were lifted bodily into the air by the shock wave, dropping back down 20 feet into the collapsed ruin of the ship. This is why, if you visit the memorial today, the front of the ship is essentially gone. For 7 seconds, the bow of the Arizona became a bomb itself. Today, the Arizona still rests at the bottom of Pearl Harbor, bleeding a few quarts of oil every day, the black tears. Her destruction was more than a tactical failure. It was a brutal lesson in engineering. It proved that the traditional heavily armored battleship was obsolete in the face of modern physics. That single type 99, no 80. Mark 5, menos a. Converted artillery shell costing less than $500 to modify achieved what thousands of standard bombs could not. It destroyed a strategic asset worth millions. The blueprint of that bomb marked the end of the battleship era and the dawn of air supremacy. War, ultimately, is a contest of energy. And on that day, Japanese engineers found the key to maximizing kinetic energy and used it to open the gates of hell. Do you think the Arizona could have survived if she were at sea, maneuvering? Or was the end of the battleship inevitable? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. To discover more untold stories of World War II, please click the video on your screen. See you next time.